Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy Tuesday to everyone, and welcome to the One Man Low Council, also episode 190 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast. Hopefully, everyone's week is going swimmingly so far. Lots of things to talk about this evening because not only do we have a few more box office numbers to talk about, especially with Tenet, but tonight is also the first of the U.S. presidential debates, and Lord knows that it's going to be crazy tonight. It's already been crazy with everything leading up to that point. Can only imagine what the night will actually look like. Lord knows that I am planning to watch it, as I've mentioned previously. Even though politics ticks me off, it is still one of those weird things that I'm just drawn to. I'm that person that's up all night on election night, waiting for the results to come in, following things, doing scenarios, going to 270towin.com, trying to see what states need to go which way and how things can happen. I'm a junkie for it. I'm a political junkie for it. And so tonight is definitely going to be one of those nights where I'm going to pay attention to what they are saying, because even though it's going to be crazy, even though it's going to be ridiculous, even though I think both people debating tonight represent the very worst of our political structure here in the United States, it is still something that is going to be either one, entertaining, and two, educational, because I hope that they're able to get to the crux of the policies that both plan to enact with either a second term for Trump or a first term for Biden. I already have my own thoughts about what I think it's going to look like and what I think they're going to say, but of course we'll find out more as the day goes by. So hope everyone's doing well. Let's say hello to people before diving into any of the box office news. So let's say hello to my D-Live fam first off. We got Captain Mr. Roy over there. Captain Adam Frank and Declan is there also. We got Mr. Peabody over there. How's it going, Mr. Peabody? Hopefully it is a beautiful morning over in Australia for you. We have Philly DeHobbit in the chat. Daniel Thorne in the chat as well. It is apparently National Coffee Day. I'm not a coffee drinker myself. However, when it comes to the sugary drinks that do have some caffeine in it, I'm drawn to those. Starbucks sells these, it's a caramel macchiato, and you mix it in with your milk or whatever it is that you're going to mix it with, and it's delicious. You can even have it just the way that it is as it comes, and it's delightful. Phonemo is also over there as well, so happy Tuesday to my D-Live fam. Let's jump now over into the YouTube fam. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Also, you should see that Heimdall is finally back up and running with announcements. So hopefully it works. It's my first time using the announcements feature over with the Streamlabs bot, but Heimdall is indeed alive. I saw that indeed he had posted a message. It looked like it was a completely random one, so I don't know if it's a random timer for every 5 minutes or not. I'm sure I will see it as the night progresses. But anyway, let's say hello to people that are here. So we got Mr. Roy, who was here at 5:17. And then an hour later, JRoar123 was here. Hypernext13. Brian Barth, how is it going? He also asked a question at 6:48 before the stream has even started. Bro, slow down, man. Slow your roll. It's okay. He says, is The Room a masterpiece or a failure? Explain why. Well, it's both. It is both. It's a failure because it's a terrible movie. It is one of the worst films that's ever been made, just objectively speaking. It's a masterpiece in that it has gotten such a second life on Blu-ray, on DVD, with the various screenings they've had around the country, and Lord knows it's made Tommy Wiseau a lot of money from that very thing, being able to sell merchandise and sell his appearances to show up at these events. So it's a bad movie. Like, there's no denying that it is a terrible film. So in that way, it is absolutely a failure. However, sometimes failures can turn out to be financially pretty good. We got Tina B. What's going on, Tina B? Empress of the Universe. So very glad to see you here once again. Mark Lazerth, how is it going? Sorry, Mark Lazeth. I was doing so well, and then I slipped into Gary mode for a second there. All right, here. Let us see. Peabody, who is a member over on YouTube. He is also part of the D-Live fam, is over there saying hello. Hail to you, Tina. Alice McCarthy is a member at 658 tagged and says, howdy, Odin. Happy birthday yesterday. You're still a youngling compared to Gary. Well, thank you, Alex McCarthy. I appreciate that. Everyone is a youngling when compared to Gary, even people that are older than him. Keck44, howdy, how? How is it going, Keck44? Glad to see you here. GMonkey76 is in the chat. Orange Chat Reviews at 659 says, incoming, I'm here. What did I miss? Nothing. Stream just started. Did we win? Did they lose? I don't know. And did Tenet blow the box office away? Not really. It's definitely not to the point where it's making any major profits based on the investments that they put into the movie. However, it is doing, I think, better than what many would have expected it to, and how many people are kind of twisting the narrative to say. Especially when these same people are defending movies like Mulan and saying, oh, it's doing so well, even though, of course, that math turned out to be complete bunk. That's right, you heard me. I said bunk. Joe Bag of Donuts, how's it going? Stephen McDonough, how is it going? Lone Tiger in the chat says, first time here. Well, thank you, Lone Tiger, for being here for a stream. Geek Truth 64, the hunky chunky funky monkey, how is it going? Good sir, how's it going? Rob D, tagged at 701, it says, hey Odin, I started reading the Alien film novelization and was wondering, how do you feel about film novelizations? Did you ever want to read any? Also, can't wait for the debate. Rob D, yeah, man, it's going to be crazy as far as the debate goes. And novelizations, sometimes they can be pretty good. Laura, waiting for Nerdrotic, she sent me a copy of Revenge of the Sith, and I haven't been able to finish it because I was listening to other novels at the time. She sent me the audiobook for it. And even just from the first 10 minutes, immediately I loved it because it was going into the mindset, it was going into the thoughts, because it starts off with Anakin flying a ship, and so there's all this behind the scenes and background that you're given in the story that they can't really tell you in the movie, because you really can't have thoughts in the movie. I guess you could have thoughts in the movie, but then it becomes weird and awkward, and it disrupts the pacing. So for the most part, I'm totally down for novelizations. I usually am not one to go out of my way to try and find them, because if it's a movie that I love, I'll stick with the movie. It's like, oh, great, it's a great movie. It's a movie that I don't like, but people say give it a second chance, right? Reading the book or listening to the audiobook, maybe then. But yeah, that tends to be the case, at least for me. Let's see. Lone Tiger says, what's up, Odin? Got that one already, but this time he tagged me. Yeah, and just remember that when you tag me, Odin question, all one word, it's right here. Odin question, all one word together. It'll highlight orange on my screen. Do keep in mind, I fall about 20 minutes behind in the chat, so please do not post your comment several times. My Valks are always on the lookout for spam. Even if you're not intending it to be spam, please do your very best to not have to not spam, please. Just another red shirt, how's it going? Soul Assassin, how's it going? Slicer Neon's also in the chat, as I see Heimdall is indeed finally doing his job. Bruce is a member on the channel. How's it going, Bruce? Hypernex13-703 tag says, my brother, I haven't said this in a while. Do you still know the way? I spit on you on this good day. Well, I spit on you, Hyper. You have a good day. I know the way. Do you know the way, my friend? Do you know the way, my friend? Do you know the way? I don't think you do. And it is very obvious. Thanatos Felicitas, how is it going? Kara Tharp, welcome to the chat. She is showing some love for coffee there with that. 66 Starship Alien, what's going on? Another alien in the chat. Always great to see my aliens up in here. Always great to see the aliens up in here. All right, let us see. Chat has jumped on me, but luckily no comments have been skipped, and that is always what I prefer. Hypernex13 at 704 says, The Room is a masterpiece. That's a fact. It's better than The Godfather. JK. Yeah, as a movie, it is not. Doesn't even hold a candle to The Godfather. Is not even worth taking off The Godfather's shoes or taking out the bullets. But it is still a film that, in some ways, is a masterpiece, just not in its construction or writing or cinematography, or anything else. That's for fact. Nathan Slay, how's it going, good sir? Tagged to 706, how are you? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing just fine. We're back in another week at school. We're finishing up some tests, starting a movie. We are actually watching a great film from 1954 starring Marlon Brando called On the Waterfront. One of my all-time favorite films, definitely one of my all-time favorite films, movies, because I wanted to show a film, one, to give us a little bit of a break. We've been going at this now since, early August. And it's always good, when covering material, to have a break every now and then. It's still going to be relevant, though. I'm not one of those teachers where it's like, let's just watch a film to watch a movie. It's like, no, it's going to be relevant. And it's amazing because I was stuck between that film. At one point, I was leaning towards Silence by Scorsese, which is an amazing movie, especially about, the concept of faith and people willing to die and sacrifice themselves for the faith. And so I was thinking of that film, 12 Angry Men. Rope. I mean, there's just so many great classic movies, especially that could have really garnered themselves to the topic. But then all of a sudden I started rewatching On the Waterfront because it kept coming up in all of my searches. I was like, hey, what are some good stories about morality? And On the Waterfront kept popping up, and I was like, oh, let me try and watch that at the beginning. And then sure enough, within the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm sold. And as we're watching it in class and getting about 40, 45 minutes in, I'm like, man, I'm glad I chose this movie because there's so many great topics. Now, whether the students are appreciating it or not, it's always hard to say. As one of the students says, is it a black and white film? It's like, yes, it is. It's from the 1950s. I'm sorry if it doesn't have enough explosions and quick cuts for your ADD minds. I think most of them are enjoying it, or at the very least are getting through it without falling asleep. I had one class where I had a few students fall asleep, but that's what happens when you say, oh yeah, go ahead, you can lay on the ground as long as you're going to stay awake. They're not going to stay awake, especially when those lights go off. So one of those classes has lost that privilege for that very reason. It's funny because I had one person who was like, it's like, I was awake on the floor. You made eye contact with me. It's like, I know, but the 3 others were not. So blame them. But it's great. I love the film very, very much. And but other than that, doing just fine. Sisa Neon says, Revenge of the Sith novel is better than the movie. Debate me. I don't think I would debate you on that based on what I've been listening to. I think that, because even though many people will argue Revenge of the Sith is by far, is easily the best prequel movie, it still is not much for me compared to the original trilogy. That's just my own personal take. Some would say it might be better than Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, but even Return of the Jedi, I just think has just a little bit more crispness. Crispness to it, and it just works a little bit better narratively speaking. So overall, I do enjoy that one better. But the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, having listened to at least the very, very beginning of it, already I enjoy it better than the movie. Nathan Slay 708 says, what was the best year for movies? There is no best year for movies. There are several great years for movies because some movies you like more than others, and so that's really a subjective question, right? Because certain movies that you think are great, others might not think are that great. And so even though there are definitely going to be years that people will say, oh, but this one had all of these different movies that got nominated for Oscars, and these are all films that are considered to be iconic and classic today, there is a way and a metric in which we can definitely pick out the years that are stronger than others. They're stronger in weaker years. But in general, I just don't feel like it's a question that I can answer. That's for damn sure. Because there's too many. There are too many. Holy crap. The chat jumped on me, and then I just saw a bunch of tags. And I think it's because Heimdall is a funny little guy. And so what I think I'm going to do, one of the reasons why he's commenting so much, is because in the settings for the timers, let me try and fix that if I can. It says minimum chat lines 5. And at first I was like, oh, that should be fine. Let's do minimum chat lines 15. That should work. That should make it a little bit better. Also, we got 59 people in the chat. Please smash that like button. A little light tonight. I'm guessing others are streaming when they always know that I stream at this time. Looks like I might have to declare some people excommunicado. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, back into the YouTube chat. Jeff, how is it going? Eric O'Sullivan, welcome to the chat. Brian Barth at 708 tagged me and says, why does Uwe Boll's movies suck? How is he an idiot? How is anyone an idiot? I mean, it's someone who has an ego because he thinks that he's better than what he is. And to be honest, I think that he just is somehow able to get the money and get able to sign on to projects to be able to pull them up and somehow put them out. And I don't think he recognizes that he's not talented. So, Daniel Conforti, how is it going? Welcome to the chat. It's a new name in here. Let's see. Stephen McDonough at 709 tagged and says, thoughts on now announced worst remake, Lion King getting an unearned sequel. Yeah, I saw that. Someone, I think it was actually Super, tagged me on Twitter about that very prospect. And it's stupid. It's just completely stupid. Now, financially, it makes sense. Financially speaking, Lion King made money. Whether I like it or not, The Lion King was a financial success. However, I do find it interesting that in the age, especially of COVID, when another one of their movies, Mulan, is not making money, is barely making anything on Disney Plus, is making nil in China, especially based on how much effort they did to try and get the movie to be popular in that marketplace. It's insane that they're still going this so-called live action route. Again, Lion King is the worst example because it's really not live action at all. It's complete CG. It's like, hey, if you're going to do that, I appreciate you trying to get the hyper-realistic animals, but when you have voices that have emotion and the faces do not have emotion, and you're using CGI and you could tweak the faces to have emotion, I have a problem with that, right? It's one thing we're talking about, I was going to say The Unexpected Journey, but I'm going back into like Hobbit Land. But I was trying to think of another example of Homeward Bound, where it's just the dogs and the cat roaming around, their mouths aren't moving, like they're making, general movements and general faces and reactions that match up with the voices you're hearing. But guess what? It's working. It works for what it is. And then, of course, you have, unfortunately, movies that have come out since then where they make almost completely CGI animals that talk, trying to look realistic, and it looks terrible. Or they have a real animal and they just CGI the mouth and it looks terrible. It just doesn't really work out at any point either. So yeah, I'm very upset by that, and not in the, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's so bad. It's just, it makes me sad that Disney is continuing on, not learning its lesson. And as I've always been saying, we have to be the ones that speak up to it. The general populace has to be the ones to say, yeah, I'm not buying it anymore. And I feel like that message has been sent, at the very least, with Mulan, because no one's going to see it. Let me go ahead and try and pull up some of the numbers here if I possibly can. It's going to show up probably in the international marketplace of movies. So let's see. Yeah, because Mulan really hasn't had much of a theatrical release at all. Even, because it has not had a domestic release other than it just being released onto the Disney Plus streaming service. So it's not even showing up in the top 20 over there. So now I have to search for it. And it has only made $64 million worldwide. 64 million. Add that to the 60 to 90 million they claimed Disney Plus made. So the movie's made $150 million in total, and it's been out since September 3rd. So it's been almost out for a month, and it's only made around $150 or so million. That's, again, I think at best, really, $150 million. That's really not that impressive. Again, it cost $200 million to make, and that $64 million international, they're not getting much of anything from that. Remember, their huge push was China. And in China so far, it has only made $39.9 million. They were thinking, right? The whole mindset of casting the actors, of making the film more to the traditional story, was all to try and get that Asian marketplace, and they're not showing up. And I love how still people are saying it's mostly COVID's fault. No. COVID is indeed a part of the equation. Same reason why for Tenet, COVID is a part of the equation. But in this case, more so than with Tenet, it's also the fact that this film has significantly more controversy surrounding it. Whether it's the lead actress that has taken the point of basically supporting communist governments, communist regimes, whether it is the fact that Disney themselves at the end credits of Mulan think groups associated with the communist regimes in China that are in charge of and near the concentration camps. Did we mention that there are concentration camps in China today, that they are trying to literally have an ethnic cleansing of their Muslim minorities? Isn't it amazing that this is happening in 2020 and yet you barely hear anyone talking about it? Things that we look back on when we talk about World War II and we think, gosh, Hitler was so evil, all these different things, all these people doing these things were evil, and yet we have a modern world considered to be developing, but I guess developing / getting close to developed world, run by communists. The fact that communism is even still around is kind of an amazing thing, and that they are, again, rounding up people, specifically religious minorities, and killing them. I'm sorry, but I don't understand how we can't all come together and say this is bad. It makes very little sense to me why this is something that we can't come together on. But because of all of these different things, that is why Mulan is not selling well on Disney+. Not to mention the $30 they're charging behind a paywall, but that's the reason why it's not making massive amounts of money in China. You have movies that are making money in China, even homegrown films making money in China. But $39.9 million gross, guess what? Disney gets very little of that. Maybe they get 25% or so. Again, depending on the numbers you look in, it could be between 25 and 40%. China takes a lot of that money, takes a lot of that cash. And turns out it was not worth their investment. $150 million in a month for a $200 million plus movie? Crazy. Absolutely crazy and insane. And by the way, half of that came from markets where you're splitting the money. So take about maybe half, maybe more than half of that money. So the $64 million, it's maybe only made net profit from that amount. What, 32 million max? So in reality, the movie's made between $90 and $120 million in a month. Not good. Not good at all. But you won't hear them talk about it. That's just the way the world works now. And it's very sad. Lone Tiger, though, gave a $1 donation via Streamlabs. Thank you very much, Lone Tiger. I very much appreciate using the Streamlabs. Because for those that are not aware, YouTube takes 30% of every super chat, of every super sticker. If you ever have the function, I don't have it yet, but sometimes some videos have the applause feature. Even that one, they take 30% of that too, which is just so ridiculous to me. And it gets tougher for content creators, especially when they're splitting 30% of the revenue with no way of having anything else or no other recourse. So I very much push for people to, if they want to, again, I'll read comments still, even if you don't donate, if you just tag me in the general chat. I cannot confirm whether I'll get to it within 20 minutes because I'm usually 20 minutes behind. But again, I think that it's a fair way of doing it. But it also is a way for me to have vast majorities more of it. So the example I love to give is I've gotten $100 super chats before. Turns out I only got about $70 of it, versus if someone gives a $100 donation via Streamlabs, I get $96 of that. So yeah, that's a pretty big difference, especially for people like me, or rather people not like me who do this for a living. You know, I do this for fun. I have a day job and I'm very happy with it. I'm happy teaching. But there are other people that need, this revenue. And it's just sad that YouTube does not give really any of the content creators anyway to increase their revenue streams overall. But Lone Tiger says, "Hey Odin, I am not prepared to lose brain cells, so I will not be watching the debate or anything political until we have a good human being in the system." Well, you'll be waiting a long time, Lone Tiger. Let me just put it that way, because they're a dime a dozen. I can't think of many in the realm of politics today, especially in Washington, that I would say is by definition a good. And I want to be careful with that because I think all humans are created to be good. But a non-corrupt would probably be the best way, a non-corrupt politician. So you'll be waiting a pretty long time, Lone Tiger. Lone Tiger then gave another $1 donation. Says, "Odin, thank you so much for bringing up the Muslims in China issue. Not a lot of people are aware of it. And as a Muslim, it means a lot to me that you're using your platform to bring up human rights issues. That should be the first thing we talk about." No, Lone Tiger, you're right, dude. It's sad that even though we know about this, even though it got into mainstream media attention, it's just disappeared. It's just that no one's really talking about it. No one's saying, hey, this is not okay. How in the hell has Disney not been investigated? I mean, again, I know they're a company and that they can choose to do with their money what they will, but I don't see how this isn't a potential human rights violation if you are giving money to a known entity that does stuff like this. Like, I just don't understand. And obviously, I'm a noob when it comes to understanding international law, understanding business practices with companies overseas, and culpability of those companies. I don't know. But what I do know is that it is very disturbing that so many people are still to this day giving Mulan a pass, ignoring not just the fact that it's a terrible movie. We haven't even gotten to the point that it's a bad movie. It is not a well-made movie at all. And yet also, in addition to that, all of this crap around it. It's sad. It is sad. The K-Man. Wow, the K-Man, dude. Thank you so very much for the $10 donation via Streamlabs. Says, "Happy belated birthday. May the year bring plentiful." Well, thank you very much, the K-Man. I appreciate it. Yeah, the year is going to be bringing lots of plentiful, man, because we got about 2 weeks. Baby Thor will be in the world, again, within the next 2 weeks or so. There's obviously the chance of inductions and all these other things, but within 2 weeks, he will indeed be entering into the world. And I'm very, very excited for that. Very excited to have Baby Thor into the world. And just as a reminder, that means that these are going to be some of the last streams I might have for a while. because once baby Thor is here, my time and attention go fully to that, and of course to helping out the wife as we go through the making sure he has all the nutrients and making sure he gets all the sleep and everything, and making sure my wife gets all the sleep. So I'll be 2 weeks especially on hard lockdown. I'm basically trying to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to be comfortable. So yes, absolutely. But anyways, the K-Man, thank you very much, man, for the donation. All right, back over to the regular chat on YouTube. Tina B. Tag says, on the waterfront, I screamed when you said that. Yes, yes, yes. It is such a great movie, Tina. And I have 7 classes, and so I'm literally by the end of, I guess not this week, but Monday of next week, I'll have watched the film 7 times in the course of a week. And I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. It's a great movie. Lone Tiger says, can you send us a Streamlabs link? So my people in the YouTube, we got Tina in there. I think you'll see very clearly Stephanie B in there as well. They can post those links for you. Just if you ever have a question about a link or where to find something, please tag one of the mods. Tag especially either Tina or Steph. They will be able to help you because they have a list of links themselves. Heimdall posts links at random. And also, if you can't find those and you don't want to wait, if you go to the description of the video, there's always links there for everything. Let's see. Hound 3000 needs some hugs. How's it going? Soul Assassin, wish I had you as a teacher when I was in school. All mine did was play Napoleon Dynamite or Remember the Titans. Well, I will say this much. Remember the Titans is a great movie. In fact, I think Remember the Titans could actually be used very well as a story of moral choices as well, especially during that time in history. To be able to say this is wrong and to show how people just getting to know each other and talk to each other was able to be the key to breaking down the racial barriers of the time. I think that that's actually a good film to show in schools. Napoleon Dynamite, not so much, right? Napoleon Dynamite's a fun film. I do enjoy it. In a classroom, unless you're taking a film studies course and you're trying to talk about weird, quirky indie movies, I don't really see how that movie would fit in. I don't get it. Let's see. Tina B at 7-Eleven says, because nothing says on the waterfront like Michael Bay explosions and J.J. Abrams lens flares. Hey, imagine, Tina, imagine if Michael Bay came out and said, I'm going to do a remake to On the Waterfront. Lord Almighty. That scene with the pigeons. Explosions. Slicer it's at 7-Eleven. Did you know anything about Supreme Court nominees Mrs. ABC before this month? Does she get a Catholicism pass from you? So her name had been mentioned now for several years because 3 years ago she was originally considered to be she had been considered to have filled in a position that was eventually taken by, I want to say it was Neil Gorsuch. If not then, she got onto her current position in an appeals court 3 years ago and was being considered either for the Gorsuch nomination or for the Kavanaugh nomination. But one of the things behind the scenes that we were told was that they thought she was a little too green, which makes sense. She had only been on the bench for about a month, for about a year or so. Even though, of course, if you go to other members of the Supreme Court, you have Elena Kagan, who had never served on a court, never served on the bench before in her life. So I guess that really isn't much of anything. But when you're pushing forward a nominee that's going to, in this case especially, be one that's going to replace Justice Ginsburg. May she, of course, rest in peace. The fact that she is very much clearly a Catholic, has a large Catholic family, 7 kids, 2 of which have been adopted, really seems to, based on her own judicial philosophy, hold to an ideal that I know I'm very much drawn to, of originalism, of textualism, of looking at the words as they were written and how those relate to us now. Some people, I think, kind of get textualism and originalism wrong, and they think, oh, you mean that the words themselves meant this at this time when it was written, and that's where it has to stay, and therefore it can't relate. No. It's saying that we cannot interpret and change the words to mean something they really did not mean at the time that they were written. Of course, they can adopt and be better understood in the light of 20th and 21st century thought. But we obviously realize, too, it's not the position of judge and shouldn't be the position of judges to legislate from their benches and to make things up and to add things to law that had not previously existed, like we saw with cases like with Roe v. Wade, for instance. But for me right now, all that I know about her, I would say, yeah, She seems to be very clear on her position. She seems to be very clear in the support of Catholic morality, of which Joe Biden simply is not. You know, whether you like Joe Biden or whether you just hate Trump, honestly, I think anyone voting for Biden most likely hates Trump and doesn't necessarily like Biden. But for anyone, especially anyone that's Catholic, think about the fact that with Joe Biden, claims himself to be a Catholic, has been denied the Eucharist, at least once, has had several bishops speak out to say he really shouldn't be because of his pro-abortion stance. It very much flies in the face of what it means to be a Catholic, because we have obviously this very clear respect for the life and dignity of the human person from conception until natural death. Not to get into a debate on that issue. However, I think anyone, even if you were not someone who was considered yourself pro-life, I think you could still see, yeah, if you claim to be of a religious background and you go against some of the core moral principles, how can you say that you are of that background? So what I can say then is that when it comes to Miss ABC, Amy Coney Barrett, it's actually ACB, Amy Coney Barrett. At first I was like, wait, is it really ABC? No, it was ACB, Amy Coney Barrett, that she holds to those teachings. She holds to those truths. And all that I can do and all that I can hope is that if and when, and I think there's a good chance that she will be, is nominated to be, or rather confirmed to be on the Supreme Court, that she will rule in that capacity. And it'd be great to see some of these terrible laws get overthrown. Let's see. Lone Tiger also donated and says, by the way, I've been donating on Streamlabs, so I got it. Also, congrats on baby Thor. If you have a daughter, will you name her Hela? Well, we call him baby Thor because we do know he is a boy. We do know he will be a son. He will be my son. And so that's why for the channel, his name will officially be baby Thor, just for his own safety and ours. Brian Barth tagged on 7-Eleven and says, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, simpler times. Also, if this Hollywood is insane, they don't know nothing about the craziness 1930s, 1950s Hollywood. Hybrid X13, WWE Battle Royale director style, Michael Bay explosions versus Ridley's android fetish versus Nolan's time fetish versus Tarantino feet fetish. Who wins this Battle Royale? Dear Lord, man. I'm going to go with Nolan's time fetish. Only because if we're talking about it as a battle, Nolan can travel through time and can reverse time and can then run forwards and others running back. Great, crazy stuff like in Tenet. So he wins. Those that control time control everything. And then Tarantino would just be having a good time no matter what. All right, Jeff at 712 tagged and says, are you aware of the effort from the Alita Army to get a re-release of Alita Battle Angel? Yes. I know that they are pushing forward to get it being shown in Cinemark. There's been letters that have been sent. I have retweeted those, and I'm in full support of that effort. I will just say this much, though, that I'm in full support of it. I will gladly retweet it. I will gladly shout it out like I am doing right now. But at the end of the day, I honestly do think that in the place in Hollywood that we are in right now, where you have major companies having major financial losses, you have so many movies that are being pushed back, delayed, rewritten, etc. I don't think, no matter how well it might do, and again, I know the Elite Army is strong, it's not strong enough to be able to make a huge amount of profit for this movie. If that was the case, then it would not have left theaters still under what it was supposed to have made. Now, it made its money back in its Blu-ray and DVD sales and 4K sales. So it has made its money back, but not to the extent that it would need to really justify a sequel, at least at this point in time. You know, had this been maybe a couple years ago, there's no reason for them to not have wanted to make it. This is the reason why they were planning to do do a sequel for Live, Die, Repeat. That was a similar film where it got terrible marketing and didn't do well at the box office, but got a second life on home release because people realized, oh, this film's fantastic. Why did they change the name 1,000 times? And sure enough, that one got greenlit. The other problem, too, when it comes to Alita, is that the people behind the project, most especially James Cameron, is living off in Pandora. He's literally just absorbing and sucking everything that is Pandora, everything that is Avatar for the next 20 plus years. So he's not going to have time. He's not going to have time, because I saw some people say, oh, he's wrapping up and he says that Avatar 2 and 3 are finished. Remember, he is working simultaneously on all of the Avatar movies. So he's not done. He's not going to be done for another 10 years or so. So there's going to be no time for him to do that, probably even as a producer. And as I said, It's a great effort that they're trying to do. I support them in that. I will retweet it. I will, of course, send anyone that way that wants to support it. I myself have bought countless Blu-rays, countless 4Ks, given them away, and I'm still very much a fan of Alita Battle Angel. But I also live in the real world. I also follow numbers. I also follow general trends and general sentiments. And at the end of the day, even though the Alita army is a very strong group, it is still also a very small group. It is a very small group. That does not mean that it can't do anything, does not mean that they have not gotten the attention that has garnered the attention of others in the media, which they have. But that alone is not going to lead to a company and a studio, especially, remember, now it's Disney, it's not Fox, now it's Disney, being willing to put hundreds of millions of dollars behind the project to have it be to the caliber of what it was in the original movie. So, sadly, I support it. I don't really think it's going to do much of anything, though, to be perfectly honest. All right. Let's see. All right, so chat has jumped on me like it always does. Probably still 20 minutes behind, but let's see. What was the last comment before everything jumped? So 7:12, it is currently 7:36. That tells you how far behind I am in the chat. But that's how it goes. I need to spend some time over on DLive, though, because it's been a while. It's been a while for my DLive fam. So let's see how everyone is going. I always love the people that just jump in and say hello. It's like, yeah, I stream to multiple places. And if there were, how many we have now? If there were 79 people over on DLive, I'd have a more even split. But sadly, that is simply not the case at all. But welcome to the chat, and don't spam. Anyone that says don't trust me or any nonsense like that, probably is not worth being in here. Philly the Hobbit says, your thoughts on Aldous Hodge to play Hawkman in Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam? So I don't really have much of a thought on it. This is one of those cases where I never really read the source material, and so I know some people are mad at that casting because of the fact that it seems to, isn't that a character specifically that is seemingly race swapped in certain ways? I don't really know much about him as an actor, and so, again, this is me speaking outside of a comic book understanding, and so I'm just going to look basically to see, do I recognize any of his work that I could point to whether I think he would be a good actor in the role at the very least. This is someone that's done something, Star Trek short treks. That doesn't really say much for me. He's done Black Mirror. He did a movie with Jay-Z, or he did some kind of video with Jay-Z. The Blacklist. He was in Hidden Figures. Well, I actually liked Hidden Figures, to be perfectly honest. He also did Straight Outta Compton, which I was not a big fan of. Walking Dead, he had a small role there. And I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything here that is overly impressive. Supernatural, Jake Talley, don't really remember. Back from 2007. He did, let's see, Friday Night Lights. I said Friday Night Tights. That's the show I do with Gary on Fridays. I actually never saw Friday Night Lights either. So, I'm looking at his filmography. Don't really understand or don't really see much of anything. So, I don't know if he's a good actor. He has a lot of work, though. So that's the one thing I do like to see. Even if I don't, he's been working since 95. He's gotten TV series after TV series. He's gotten into a recurring role in certain series. So that to me means he's a guy that's been in the business. He's a guy that's been working his tail off in the industry. And so therefore you could potentially see him do a good job acting wise. As I said, though, does not mean that I think he's going to fit the role necessarily, because that's just beyond my own mindset. All right, Daniel Thorne over on DLive. Weirdest or strangest festival movie you've seen? I don't go to festivals. I've never been to a festival, so I couldn't say. Phil Hobbit says, your thoughts on Disney announcing layoffs around 28,000 cast members in the United States? Yeah. If you want to have proof positive why the directions that are potentially going to happen based on the results of the current election, this, I think, is a great piece of evidence to push one way or the other. Whoever you think is going to be the president that's going to bring this economy back, is going to open up businesses, is going to open up the economy, and who has said they are going to open up the economy, is the one, and one of the only ones, that's going to be able to address this issue. And at this point, only one person has said that they are going to open the economy because they've been trying to open the economy in certain locations. and obviously has been allowing governors and allowing states to do so, while another has said, no, we need to shut it down. We need to talk about national mask mandates. We need to talk about all these other things that are going to hurt businesses, even more so than they already are. Now, as you all know, if you follow my channel, I am politically independent, right? I lean both directions on different issues. As I've always said, at the very core of who I am a Catholic, right? It's a very major part of my identity. Morality is a very important part of me, which is, again, one of the reasons why I have my issues with Trump, because of his personal morality. Regardless of what his positions are, what his policy is, his personality, I think, does indeed dictate the way that many people, including myself, view him to be. I don't ignore the policy that he's put forward, and I don't ignore the fact that Biden's policy is going to fight in the face of a lot of the good policies that I've seen come out of this current administration. But when I look to a story like that, again, Disney, keep this in mind, allowing or announcing 28,000 cast members. 28,000 people are going to be laid off from one company. Yeah, it's a massive company, right? And that might be a drop in the bucket when you compare it to the number of other cast members they have. But when any company is losing 28,000 because their industry is being affected, and the reason their industry is being affected is not because people are choosing not to go, but because in California, for instance, things have been so shut down that they have not been allowed to reopen. And finally in Florida, even more restrictions have been lifted up for people to be able to go with very little possibility of danger. Or at least any possibility of being shut down. So I'm thinking and really hoping and wondering that is something that, that 28,000 people being laid off, that is a wake-up call for people. Because again, all comes down to this. Who do you think is going to be the person that's going to end the lockdowns and end the destruction of businesses? Right now, based on the two mainstreams, keep in mind, there's more than two. There's third-party candidates as well, and I always vet every single one before I make my final decision. But out of the major two, only one of them is pushing in any direction whatsoever to open things up rather than to close them, which another side has said. Daniel Thorne says, happy belated birthday. Well, thank you very much for that, Daniel Thorne. I appreciate it. Says, you'd think a certain group would cause a huge stir about Muslims in China given their color. Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing too, right, is that these things are happening to these Muslim minorities in China, and yet there is, at least to my knowledge, no calls for attacks on China. Now, this also could be the fact that because China is communist, that maybe they have certain ties and dealings with these countries, and maybe they are able to snuff these things out because they play by a very different set of rules. I honestly don't know. But it is interesting. That's a fair point about how is it that in the world today, when a president and Congress and politicians will be attacked for when a previous administration had held people that crossed the border illegally in cages, and how they have an issue with that, which, by the way, I think there's some issues with. But then they're silent on and very little caring for people because of their religious background and their ethnic background are being gathered up and placed in concentration camps. This is stuff that we know. There's academic articles that are now being written about this very point. I don't get it. I do not get how in the hell this is something that people have decided that, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I don't get it. Let's see. 369, Garion. Thank you for becoming a citizen of Asgard. Thank you for becoming a member on the channel. Your name highlights green now, which means you don't have to tag me in order to have your comment read. However, I will still be 20 minutes behind, and if you tag someone else in your comment, then I, of course, will skip it because I don't want to get involved with your own conversations. But if you are on YouTube, please smash that like button. It really does mean a lot. We got 81 people watching, and it's been fantastic so far. Please like and share the video as well. It really does help a lot. Of course, once you become a member of the channel, you get this gift right here, which is my dog River being a cutie. And that, of course, is also when I had hair. That's right. That's what it used to look like at one time in our lives. All right. So let's see. D-Lab Captain Dean Heiss is celebrating a 2-month sub streak. Well, thank you very much for resubbing for 2 months. I appreciate that, Captain Dean Heiss. He's been one of my long-standing members over there. We got Captain Mr. Roy, who sent 5 ice creams. I appreciate it very much, too. Captain Dean Heiss over there, what's going on? Phonemo, by the time Avatar 2 comes out, they'll have to reboot the franchise. Yes. And I pray that never happens. Dear Lord. It's the K-Man. How's it going? It's the K-Man. Phonemo tagged, only an alien can play Hawkman per Hollywood rules. Yeah. Yep. Only an alien can play an alien character. Up. We make exceptions. We make exceptions when you're not the right color or not the right race. Okay, that's consistent. That's lucid. Daniel Thorne, why do people say the Bible says to obey the government? Have they forgotten about the coming mark? Is it even possible for businesses to go underground if there is another lockdown? I mean, it's possible. I know that there have been businesses that have defied these orders, and as long as the people going and as long as the people supporting those businesses don't say anything, then they'll be fine. Then they'll be able to go on. But if they get caught, I mean, that could be their business. So that's the risk that they have to take. What's more so needed, though, are politicians right now who maybe are more closely connected to the common, ordinary working man. Maybe those freshman congressmen and women. Maybe those freshman senators, right? Any single one of those people that's brand new in the game has not been spending 70 plus years of their life, or in the case of Joe Biden, 47 years. Oh yeah, when I get back to the White House, I'm going to fix these things. Where have you been for the last 47 years? Not to mention, what you really need is to get help, because you're obviously going through the early stages of dementia. My heart goes out to you and to your family. But for some reason, we can't talk about that. It's a no. Can't talk about that. What am I, a doctor? But Daniel Thorne, he said, why do people say in the Bible say that the Bible says to obey the government? No, it says pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but pay unto God what is God's. Last time I checked, much more is of God than is of man. And one could easily look into that and say, then is there really anything that is due to Caesar? Is there anything that is due to the government? I think there's a debate to be had there. Me personally, I find that middle ground where I say there's certain things that we give power to a centralized government because it makes sense, such as things like national security, such as being able to maintain roads and roads and bridges and interstate relations, etc., which makes sense to some extent. While there are many others that could easily have been done better or as well on the state level. One of the actual major concepts as part of the Catholic social teaching is a concept known as subsidiarity. And according to subsidiarity, it's a very important point in church teaching, is that anything that a lower group in society can do as well as or better than a higher group in society, they should have the right to do it. Case in point, if it is shown that a family can educate their children as well as, if not better, than their local school systems, they should have the right to do so. Makes sense. And now take this to its logical conclusion and say there's a lot of things that the federal government, even the statewide government, does that could be better on a much more localized level. The smallest of those localized levels, of course, being the family unit itself. But it's something we don't talk about. Personal responsibility has seemingly ceded the ground to an overemphasis on the common good. And while the common good is a good thing, the wanting to do what is best for others is indeed a virtue. It's a good thing. It can never be done at the sake and for the sake or in spite of the individual rights that we all have. Some people, I think, get too caught up in individualism, where it's only about me. I should only care about me. Well, we live in a culture and we live in society. Our individual rights are important, but the only way that those rights can be maintained is if we also protect the rights of others, because if we don't protect others' rights, who is going to protect our rights? Because it's either us, the people, as a community, common good, or it's a higher power / higher authority, and for us here on Earth, that would be government and centralized government at that, which I think a lot of people would want to try and run away from. All right. That was a good discussion from D-Live. So thank you, my D-Live fam, for those series of questions. So let's jump up over into YouTube world. It's 7:12 on YouTube. It's 7:49 where I am. I'm over 30 minutes behind on YouTube now. Oh, Lord. Hope everything is going swimmingly. Before I do dive into that, I do want to talk about the Tenet numbers a little bit. Because according to Deadline, Tenet has taken $285 million globally through Sunday, with an 86% of its market coming from overseas. China Leap jumps on $25 million weekend bat. It's a new China release. Keep in mind, $25 million for a China movie called Leap. Already doing much better, already making about half as much as what Mulan has made at this point. But let's talk a little bit about Tenet. It says here, with Christopher Nolan's Tenet again came in slightly higher in Warner Brothers' weekend actuals versus Sunday's estimates, with $16.2 million on 19,000 screens in 56 overseas markets. That's a negative 35% hold, negative 25% excluding China. The international box office through Sunday is $243.7 million for $284.9 million worldwide. As key areas of the United States remain closed, offshore is powering Tenet at 86% of its total gross. And I think that's important right there. I think that is absolutely the clear key to all of this, is the fact that when you look at Tenet, even with the vast majority of theaters in the United States still closed, with major powerhouses like in New York and like in California, right? Homes of the major theaters that make the most money. The fact that those are still closed or limited at best, the fact that it's still making mass amounts of money and even in the overseas markets is indeed a trend in the right direction. As I said, what I predicted was I thought the film was going to make around $350 million by the end of its run. That was not based on any of the mathematics. I tend to use mathematics. I tend to use my percentages and my predictions, but it was just basing on the trends, basing on how much it was making week in and week out, as more markets began to be more available, as more theater spaces became more broad, and here in the States, as more states become available too, I think that number will continue to grow. It'll be a longer process. Normally a film is made, at the first 2 weeks of its release, it's made 60% of its entire box office run. Typically, that's what you find. It's usually between 50 and 70%, somewhere in that ballpark. Either it makes it a huge front load on the front end, right? So 70% of the entire final number in those first 2 weeks, or then 50 or 60, where it's okay, maybe half of it, and then the other half it made up over several weeks, after that point and after that fact. We can't do that math here because this is COVID math, and this is a lot harder to track. And so all I did was I said, okay, here's where it was at this point in its history, at this point in its history, at this point in its history. And since it jumped up from 251, remember the last time we had it was at $251 million. The fact that we've now jumped up to 284.9 worldwide, I would say by next weekend, there's a good chance we'll be at 300 or past 300. And California, New York, when those open, I think 350 for the box office is enough. Now, it costs $300 million to make. When you add in marketing, it's splitting this money with these different places and chains, which means that by the end of its run, let's say it makes 350, it's still in the red. All right, it's still in the red. And let me try and see if I can break that down. Let's assume that at the very least, it makes 350. Let me put this right. 350, oh Lord, $1 million. All right, $350 million by the end of its run. So if we were to say that it is only going to get 60% of that number, that means we multiply that by 0.6, and that means that the actual money it would get from that market would be $210 million. Now, even those percentages normally are pretty standard, right? United States, normally they get a 90% plus take in those first 2 weeks. It becomes less over time. Foreign market, China, you got 25, 40% you get made in that, early couple weeks, and then eventually it only lasts 4 weeks because China has a very clear runoff. Other countries have different breakdowns as well. This is also not taking into account any global deals that they've had, any partners that they've worked with to get extra revenue, but just based on pure box office alone, if it makes 350 by the end of its run, the raw total would be $210 million. Now you have to subtract the $300 million that it cost to produce and market the movie, and that leaves us with what? Negative $90 million. So it would still very much be a financial loss. However, I don't think a lot of people were expecting the film to only lose potentially $390 million. And as I said, I think that this is a movie that will be out in theaters long until December and will continue to make little by little. Who knows? Maybe best case scenario, it makes closer to $400 million. And when that happens, guess what? Now you're only looking around a $50 or $40 million loss, which is much easier to make up on Blu-ray, DVD, and other sales. So it's not all hopeless. And that's my biggest problem, as I said from day one, is anyone that's been spinning Tenet off as a major flop. Because they're failing to recognize, one, of course, COVID, which must be brought into account for any movie. But then second, what these numbers actually mean and how they translate into raw grosses. And also how it ignores so many theaters still being closed. It is truly insane. It is indeed truly insane. And I don't like it. Okay. Let's see here. I think I am further behind than I thought. Oh lordy. So yeah, I'm back on YouTube though. That's where I know I am for sure. But Justin Proper though, let's see, sent a $5 super chat. What's going on, Justin Proper? Says, so to Stephanie and Tina, by the way, Odin, Google IMDb woke movies. Look at the top of the list. It's hilarious. Let's see, IMDb top woke movies. Google search says The Mandalorian. That's not a movie. Then it says Mulan, The Social Dilemma, The New Mutants. Then there's Woke Trump Era. I think this is the one that you meant. Did you mean the one that says Woke Trump Era movies? I think that's hilarious. And number one there is The Shape of Water. I would agree with that with that major point. Oh, the movie's on here. And then they put something like Zootopia. I don't think Zootopia is woke. I think Zootopia is a fine film with some funny moments. I can see how you could definitely interpret it that way, but not really. Not for me. All right, anyway, back over to the general YouTube chat at 7:12. Dear Lord, at 7:57. Let's see. Fable Narrative says, hi, Odin. Hi, Fable Narrative. Hope you're doing well. Griffin Turbo, glad to see you here. Eric K says, hello. Hello to you. Glad to see you here. Joseph Ippolito, what's going on? Eric K. Tad, hope your day went well. Thank you very much, good sir. I appreciate that. Rob D says, I think the best year for movies really depends on your age. Everyone has subjective opinions. I highly doubt anyone completely ignores the genres they personally like. And answering yet, and I think, as I said, that's the reason why it's really hard for me to answer that question, because there is so much subjectivity. Nathan Slay, is there a movie that is so good that you would be heartbroken if someone said they hated it? For instance, that movie that would be The Shawshank Redemption for you. For me, I don't really think I have that movie because I don't really attach myself that much to movies. I love movies. Like, there's certain movies that I'm very much drawn to. But any person, if they can give me a legitimate reason as to why they don't personally like it, while still acknowledging if the movie does have objectively good things, I'm okay with that. Like, I love the Back to the Future trilogy, and yet there are people that don't like it. And if they simply say, I don't like that genre, or I don't like time travel films, I would say, hey, I respect that. As long as you can say, but would you at least say it's a well done movie, well written film, well put together, well acted? And if they could say, yeah, it's got those things, it's just not my cup of tea, I'd say, like, all right, cool, no problem at all. No problem at all. Let's see, Joe Bag of Donuts 716. What is your guilty pleasure? That movie that's terrible objectively, but you enjoy watching and still watch every time you come across it. That, of course, would be The Room. I've mentioned that previously on the channel. It'll always be the answer there. Another one would be The Fanatic. Hilariously bad movie. Eric K. If they do live action animals, I expect a real lion and just give us translation. See, that, in my opinion, would be better. John Ellish Bush. Wait, they are remaking The Lion King 2. I didn't think it could get any worse, or is it a completely new film? I was only able to read it briefly from the headline. All they've said is that they are making a follow-up to the live action Lion King. I don't know if they're doing Simba's Pride, and I doubt that they would, to be honest. Nathan Slay, I love how Disney is getting punished for pandering to the commies by their movie bombing in the one place they thought it would get. Yeah, it's definitely something that is making a lot of us very, very happy. For sure. CW Trixie says, it's bad enough about Disney doing live action remakes of their animated movies. It's even worse if they do live action remakes of their sequels. How creatively bankrupt is Disney? Seriously, they just cannot come up with any major new stories, and all the ones that they do come up with just are almost exactly directly connected to previously told stories that they are trying to either steal or twist in various ways. Them Truckers, welcome to the channel. Super tagged at 720 and says, hey, what is up, my dude? Sorry I'm late. Happy belated birthday to you. Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Someone said broke even. If we're talking about Tenet has not broken even. It is not broken even. Because again, it does not get 100% of the box office revenue. It has to split that with the theater chains. And normally, by the end of the result, at the end of everything, it's around a 60-40 split. But I can't even say that much anymore because that's assuming they still are getting from, at least in the American theaters, 90% in the first 2 weeks, and then less, or rather, studios getting less and less as the film still remains out. And again, it makes sense. More people tend to go opening weekend, which means they get a large influx of cash, and then anything they make after the fact is fine because they're usually moving on to their next movie. But even then, though, we have to ask the question, but are more people seeing these movies later on than typical? Does that mean that the movie theaters are actually getting a better cut there because more people are seeing it later than after the first 2 weeks? Because I know there were a lot of people that were very nervous to go back into the theaters, and I totally understand why, especially when you have a news media that's all about trying to fearmonger these things going on, even though there is a 99.98 survival rate with this thing. And yet we are still, for some reason, locked down in so many different ways. It makes no sense. Slicer Neons, I heard a few Japanese YouTubers, or their VTubers, got banned for mentioning Taiwan in their stream. China has way too much power. It's disturbing. It is. It truly is. Any communist regime in 2020, and long time before that, is completely ridiculous. Yeah, that's sad. That is really, really sad. Alrighty here. Super says, and the news about China is only mainstream online. I watch TV news with my family, and they won't even touch it. Yeah. And that, to me, is insane. It's amazing to me that the mainstream media in our country, at least the United States, cares more about someone's tax returns than Chinese concentration camps. Put this into perspective. We've had hours and hours and hours of coverage of Donald Trump's financial records and maybe a small peep about China concentration camps. How does that make any sense? Oh, wait, that's right. It's because the media that we have in our country has failed us miserably by getting so in bed and so involved with politics that they have lost the very understanding of what their occupation is supposed to be. Yes, they should keep the president in check. Yes, they should keep everything and all people in government in check. They've not done that. They've said, we're going to keep one person in check, even with the entire rest of the world going to burn. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, man. Orange Hat Reviews 725. Belated, I missed it. Happy birthday, Odin. Have an ale and a cookie. Well, I don't drink ale, but I appreciate that. I will definitely have a cookie. I'll probably have some Oreos as I'm watching the debate. I'm going to be like, some Oreos. Yes, I like it. Yes. And laughing and crying at the same time. As I said earlier, crying at the state of our union, laughing because it's probably going to be funny. Because love or hate the guy, Trump can have some zingers that are pretty fun and entertaining. And again, I think it's the best and the worst of what's going on in our country right now. Because you got to laugh at some things, but at the same time, can we get someone in there that is going to take it seriously and not have to go that route? That's just me, though. Again, personality versus policy. I like his policy. I don't like his personality. And then Biden, don't really like his personality all that much. He used to be a lot more likable. Not so much anymore, especially since he's gone very, very hard left. And then his policy is all over the place. And I cannot think of a single policy position that he's holding on to that is in any way geared towards me. Especially as someone that was hoping we would share ourselves as being Catholics, but can't. Stephanie B, how's it going? Stephanie B, how's it going? Pod Racing Palpatine is in the chat. Nathan Slay, if Michael Bay directed On the Waterfront, I could have been a massive explosion. I see what you did there. Yep, and then we would have lost that iconic line. Donald Hudson at 726, not sure if you have a Meyer nearby, but their formula is great. Well, thank you for the advice. Yeah, we actually got some formula already. We're planning to do, for the most part, natural. So we're not too much into looking into formula at this point, at the very least. Let's see. Thank you, Heimdall, for being so productive today. Just Joe 47, how's it going? Glad to see you here. Bryant Barth at 729. I wonder how the directors for the 60s and 70s, Stanley Kubrick, Billy Wilder, Elie Kazan, David Lean, Francis Ford Coppola, would react to modern Hollywood. To be honest, I think a lot of them would have been in line with a lot of their thinking. If those same people existed in today's world, I honestly do believe that they would fall in line with it, because a lot of them had very similar thoughts. Now, certain concepts did not exist at that time as they do now. Certain things that are generally accepted in our American culture were not accepted at that time. So it's really almost impossible to say what they would think and what they would be like. But a lot of people in Hollywood, especially the powerful Hollywood director, producer types, usually are cut from the same cloth for the most part, is from what I've gotten. Orange Eye Reviews at 71 says, I'm willing if you splashed holy water on Joe Biden, he would shriek. No, Orange Hat, he wouldn't react. He would just be like, huh, what? I fall asleep again? He would think that he probably drooled. And it's very sad. And I hate to have to say that joke, and yet, at the same time, they are literally running somebody that really needs to retire. All right, I have some super chats that I've fallen back on from about 7 minutes ago. So we have Lars Leonard. Thank you very much for the super chat. Says, Disney should release the new movies or series on their streaming service without delay and double down to build subscribers for the future, even with a loss. See, Lars, I agree with you to an extent. I think that what they should do is they should release their films, their remaining films, out on their service. However, I think they need to rethink their charging methods. Imagine, if you will, they were to come out tomorrow and say, next weekend we are releasing Black Widow on Disney Plus exclusively. And once you're a member, you only need to spend $10 to $15 to get it. I think you would have a large portion of people that would be willing to spend that $10 to $15. And it makes sense too, because even though one could argue, oh, but the families, that would be terrible for them. Yes. But also, when I hear the number 10 to 15, I am much more likely to say, oh yeah, I got 10 to 15 to spare. Psh, let's see what this is all about. Versus, ooh, give us $30. $30 for a movie I didn't ask for and didn't want? Harder sell. Films like Black Widow, and let's even go past. Let's go to other companies and potential other streaming services to see in the future. HBO Max, saying Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max, $10 to $15 for a ticket. Again, I think that could have a major impact. I think that could find itself to be very financially successful. Again, there's always going to be give and take. Things are going to be slower in the beginning. But as you were saying, I think that would be a way to do it. And let's look and see the news, though, that's going on with Disney Plus especially. What are their big stories? Disney Plus series, Marvel series, Star Wars series, etc. That's their future. They realize theaters are dying. That's why they're pushing off Black Widow until 2021. They're pushing all of their schedules back. Soul is still out at the moment. I don't know if that's going to last. We'll have to wait and see. But Mulan's obviously just not doing well, Disney Plus or otherwise. So they have the position right now and the real need to start moving these pieces, start trying to get some revenue coming in. But yeah, I think that they need to find a balance. If you're going to charge a fee to access a service, I think that there should be already in the very baked in a discount. Imagine if Disney Plus decided to have a free brand, and the free brand had certain content available after a certain period of time. So let's say something that you got for 6 months on Disney Plus finally becomes available on the free, because 6 months is a long period of time to wait. And you pick and choose what those are. It's not going to be major things or new releases, right? But older things that could transition over to the free platform. Let's say then you're on the free platform, but you want to get early access to a brand new film. Here's what you can do. You can say, all right, if you want to access it, it's going to cost you the $30, but you're not paying anything already. If you are a member and you're paying the $7 or so a month, guess what? You only have to pay $10, $10 or $15. More people likely to be willing to spend that amount of money is what I would say to that. See, Angry Mango at $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Angry Mango says, happy day after birthday, Odin. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. 32 years young. Says, making chili rellenos to enjoy while watching the president wipe the floor with Biden tonight night. Everyone, we'll see, man. We will see. There's still, I think, a good chance that things could totally get canceled. I honestly think that is definitely still something that is a complete possibility, is that the entire thing is just called off at the last minute because that's just the nature of the beast. I'm just trying to see if there was any news alerts while I've been on stream. So far, nothing as of yet, but it would not surprise me. Would not surprise me. So here's the thing, though. I think that if you are a Trump supporter, because I know there's a lot of Trump supporters on my streams usually, I would say you should be concerned that Trump goes too hard. And the reason why I say that is because imagine Trump on his game with the quips, with everything else, Biden doing what he's been doing the entire campaign. This is not an attack. This is just stating a fact, stumbling, struggling, not quite getting everything just right. And then all of a sudden it becomes Trump, 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 Trump. Guess what? The media is going to spin that as saying Biden bullied, and they're going to turn it against Trump. Now, is that going to affect the Trump base? No, Trump base is going to say, that was awesome, that was great. But those independents, those people that are in the middle that don't want the personality of Trump, but also aren't quite fans of the policy or the lack of policy, arguably, of Biden, and also have questions about his health, again, which one do they go with? I think if Trump was smart, he would keep the zingers because that's kind of as part of his personality, but he would not go for the kill, at least not in this first debate. Because if he were to be labeled and construed to be a bully, that could hurt him with independent voters. And whether we like it or not, independents make up the largest portion of the voting bloc. More people consider themselves independents than those that consider themselves to be Republicans or Democrats. And I am one who considers themselves to be an independent. And even I say, right, policy is more important to me. Personality, though, the way in which you present yourself is still also very much important too. Justin Proper gave 2 super chats. Dude, bro, no need to do that, man. You can just tag me. Known each other for a long time now. Justin Proper says, so shout out, I'm fine with Lion King 2 if it's original, not a remake. I'm not, dude. I'm not, Justin. And here's why. That first one as a remake was bad. And it's not because it borrowed from the original and deviated from the original. The problem is the fact that they spent so much time and money making those animals look realistic that even if the story was different, there was no soul. There was no life in the eyes of those characters. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it for 1 second. And then says, by the way, I do not respect nor trust anybody who hates Back to the Future or loves the Never-Ending Story. Never-Ending Story has its moments, right? It has its nostalgia. It's not one of my favorites, though. It's not a movie I would go back to every now and then to watch. I will say my favorite part of the Never-Ending Story actually is in another show, Stranger Things specifically, when the song is sung. Best part. So great to have that happen. All right, back into the regular YouTube chat. I'm sure it's going to jump on me soon. Super says, oh, that's easy, Odin. Biden says it for votes, a true politician. Yes, indeed. The true politicians always come out, don't they? Don't they? All right, so the chat has jumped on me like it always does. Looks like some comments may have been skipped, so sorry if they were. It's 7:52 in the chat. It's 8:14 where I am, so I'm still about 20 to 30 minutes behind, and we are getting to the point of around 13 more minutes or so. Let me catch up with my D-Laugh fam real quick, because I do think that's important. Phonemo says, aren't most theaters operating at 25% capacity? Yes, they are. So here's the thing, Phonemo, as he's pointing out. Most theaters would be 25% capacity. Some theaters, like my own locals, 40% capacity. The issue, though, is not only is there a capacity limitation, they're not even reaching those capacities. That's the bigger problem. You know, we hear, oh, but they're only at 25% and 40% capacity. That would be a problem if people were going in droves to the theater, but it's not. They're not even selling out at these lower capacity auditoriums. So what it really comes down to more so is that public fear of going out. Again, thank you, media, for continuing to perpetuate false information, continuing to try and take information and twist it to create this sense of fear, mostly out of political motivation. Thank you so very much for that. And that is leading then to thousands upon millions of people afraid to leave their homes, afraid to go out, afraid of the boogeyman, essentially. Even though the chances of one even getting it is very low. I want to say I crunched the numbers, and as far as active cases or people that have actually had it compared to total population, 2%. Again, only 2% of the United States population has actually gotten it. And of that 2% of the population, guess what? Survival rate over 99.9% for most people. Now, that does not mean the deaths are okay. That does not mean that we just forget about those people. No, not at all. If there was wrongdoing, if there was negligence, we look into that, we prosecute. But for anyone trying to still say that, oh no, we got to run scared, be afraid, be very afraid, I would say, shut up. You're not helping anybody. You're making things worse. Let's see. UTK says, I don't have any power for you because I am Atreus. Phonemo, 300 million, and Nolan still couldn't get the sound mix correct. I know, right? God, that sound mix. Captain Heist, the director of Indiana Jones 5, left the film for the second time. Wouldn't it be number 4 since Crystal Skull doesn't exist? Yes, this would be true. I don't know if that film's ever coming out, though. Will Gentry, I just had a crazy jump in the stream. It jumped from the starting one quote to finishing off another quote. That is pretty crazy, man. And then says, our Australian media said they would give Biden a pass if he shows up and doesn't fall asleep. Yeah, seriously. Like, that's the point we've gotten to now. People are willing to give a politician a pass because they're on their side politically, even though it's a dangerous and worrisome concept. And it's sad, but basically, if Biden tonight, in just, 45 minutes from now, if he just stays alive and says some things, he'll probably walk away mostly unscathed. I don't think Trump will allow him to, but yeah, Peabody had asked that, or said that about the Australian media. And it does not surprise me. Thank you for taking care of that troll. Will Gentry, I thought you were going to say favorite part was when Peter Griffin tried to ride Falcor and he couldn't take the weight. That is also a great part. Yeah! You're way too heavy, pal. Yeah, we're going down. JKD Buck 76. Thank you for the 3 lemon donation. I appreciate it. All right, jump back now to D-Live at 752. Hardwick says, how would being an alien be required for playing Hawkman? He's an Egyptian. You might be getting him mixed up with Voltan and Flash Gordon. Do you sometimes mistakenly call Hawkman? No. I didn't do that. I never said he should be played by a alien. That was a reference to something else completely. Someone else may have been doing it, but that was not me. And no, I mean, he is also referred to as Hawkman. Another name for Voltan is oftentimes given the name Hawkman, so that's not a mistake on my part. Never, ever confuse him for a completely separate character. But Eric K., The Shape of Water, ew, I never want to see that bestiality movie. It's terrible. It's terrible. No matter what Anna, that Star Wars girl, says. Love her to death. She has bad takes, especially on that one. Justin Proper, another $5 super chat, says, no, Susie Poo literally halted the plot as well as put the saving the world on hold in order to sing that dumb song. Dustin deserves better. F. Arta. A never-ending story. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. Oh, it's so good. Oh, no. That relationship was perfect, Justin. Talking here about... oh my gosh, why? It's my 32-year-old brain is going on the fritz now. Stranger Things. I thought that relationship was great. Grandmaster Yoda in the chat, how's it going? Hardwick, according to alleged leaks, Feige wants the Eternals to debut in award season. He intends it to be the first Oscar bait MCU movie, which is why he hired Oscar bait director Chloe Zhao. Hyperin, who would win in a fight strategically, fist to fist? Vito Corleone and his son Michael versus Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. Vito Corleone and Michael. More battle tested. Liam Neeson Shin. I just got done watching Popeye from 1980. What was Robert Altman thinking? It was a masterpiece. What do you mean? What was he thinking? Eric K says, Odin gets no cake for yelling at me for giving Stephanie B cake. How dare you? Tina B, context Popeye. Altman had some kind of dream. I remember when it came out, and I think one issue was too much money thrown at it, but no results. That's very sad. I actually, nostalgia for that. Not a good movie, but nostalgia. Grandmaster Yoda, let them remake The Lion King 2. They need more kicks in the nuts at the box office to learn. Yeah, well, here's the thing. If that movie comes out 3 or 4 years from now, and they make it for less money, and they put it on Disney+, that actually could make them money. I won't go see it. Could be keeping this in mind, too, right? The box office market's going to change forever. Tina B says, not just tax returns, but nothing about the Biden connection with Ukraine or the Clinton Foundation. Just saying, yeah, seriously. Hunter Biden. Where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? Taking millions of dollars from the Ukraine mayor's or Russian mayor's or Ukraine Moscow mayor's wife? A little suspicious there. While his father was vice president. Interesting. 13th Warrior, I got here late because I was following your advice. I attended a meet and greet for a U.S. congressional candidate for my district. Told her what was important to me. Dude, 13th Warrior, man. That's how you do it. Vote local, man. I'm glad that you're getting involved with that. Because they're the ones that are going to be, one, more directly related to your own personal district and your community, making decisions that are going to be important. And also, too, they're the ones that are likely, in many cases, the future of higher positions of power, right? Normally, if you're a representative, you start off with a state representative, you start off with even a more local representative of government, then you can become an official state representative, then you can become a senator, right? There's just so many different things. State senator, all this stuff. So it's all about building and following these people to find out what they'll do. Let's see. Super, my favorite part of Mulan bombing and Chinese audiences' response to it. I've seen so many videos from Southeast Asia citizens ripping it to shreds. Some even made channels for it. Dude, I don't blame them, man. There's a lot to hate there. Super says, I'm praying Biden falls asleep tonight. It could happen. Then again, he has to be on his feet for an hour and a half. Keep in mind, the longest speech I think he's given this cycle, at least since the presidential stuff and post conventions, I think has been about 20 to 25 minutes. Has been the longest speech he's given. And tonight's apparently going to be no breaks for an hour and a half. Trump can do that Trump can literally do that in his sleep. I don't know about Biden. I don't know. Grandmaster Yoda, if Disney believes pushing movies 2020 will make them billions again, they are in for a nasty surprise. It depends, though. Grandmaster Yoda, we really can't know one way or the other. It's a risk either way. To put them out now versus to put them out then, it is going to be a risk. Tina says, Biden has never been likable, Odin. I've been watching him since the 80s. He's always been insufferable and he lies constantly, not just as a politician, but as a human, he's disgusting. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think Trump is going to bring up that maybe places like Fox News, more conservative news outlets might bring up too. Obviously, MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, all of the other names, right? All the other letters are going to be constant barrage against Trump. What's the most egregious one, of course, is this whole thing with his taxes. The big headline is he only paid $750 total. And Biden now has how much did you pay? Compare that to what Trump paid. It's like, wait a minute. So we're going to ignore the millions and millions of dollars he overpaid in previous years. Okay. We're then going to ignore the fact that everything he's done up to this point has been legal. And can you blame somebody who has a lot of money, who's taking advantage of loopholes in the law to hold on to more of his money? when taxation itself is theft. No matter how you spin it, I don't understand. And also, here's the other thing. This was brought up when? Back in 2016. This is not a new revelation. Even on stage with Hillary Clinton, he said, it's because I'm smart, when being called out for not paying taxes. Turns out, actually, he did, and he paid a lot more. Rob D, coming soon, Odin's Baby Care blog. That would be fun. That would be crazy. Nathan Slay, the thing is, we wanted a Black Widow movie, but we just got to it too late to even care. Yeah, exactly. Should have come out 5-6 years ago, and now, especially with their character dead and interest waning and the coronavirus, there's really not much left for us to look forward to. Hannibal Grimm, new name I saw in the channel. Chat has jumped on me, like it always does. Some retracted messages. Bruce, man, it's okay. It's okay if you misspell it. Just fix it in a later post. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out indeed. All right, so let me jump back over to my D-Laugh fam. Make sure we're caught up over there. Will Gentry says, as far as I recall, he is a Hawkman rather than is Hawkman. But yes, he does get called Hawkman in popular culture. Boom! Hardwick. Hardwick, man, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. Please don't call me out like that, especially when you're wrong. It's like, I don't mind questions every now and then, but I feel like a lot of the times there's just this, I need to prove you wrong, or I'm going to have this different take. And it's like, look, I'm fine with you having a different take. But when you're like, ooh, as you wrongfully say, it's like, no. In this case, you're completely wrong. He is often referred to as Hawkman, not the Hawkman, not the character Hawkman, right? He's Voltan. And so therefore, we understand it. Brian Blessed, dive! But he is still a Hawkman. It's his race, after all. So, Nathan Slay, I really cannot imagine anyone disliking Toy Story until my history teacher said she didn't like it. Boom! That's terrible. That is awful. Think Noodles, welcome to the chat. Let's see. Super Anime Gamer, thanks for tagging me at 8:15. Remember that if you want to tag, have your question read aloud, either you can, of course, donate via Super Chat, donate via Streamlabs, which is the preferred method, or just Odin question, all one word, in the YouTube chat. I appreciate it. Super says, same, I get why they price Mulan so high, but at the same time, I think they forgot that people are watching at home. People are willing to pay $30 to get the theater experience. Exactly. If we were getting the theater experience, that'd be one thing. But if I'm watching it on my smaller television, on my computer screen, $30 really isn't all that much. And again, $30 or isn't really all that good of a deal. Not to mention, you have a lot more people who are in the single family homes. They don't want to spend $30 when it's just them watching it. Especially when you've said, oh, by the way, wait 2 months and it'll be free. Bad strategies all around. The Senate, dude, it's been so long. The Senate says, my theater is only open because they can sell popcorn. That's about it. Yeah. The sad truth of what we're seeing. Lord Toth, how's it going, good sir? Let's see. Yeah, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and just skip your comments, good sir. For going after me once again. It grinds my gears. I don't appreciate it. Brian Bart says, what makes you Ball's film stink? What makes him an idiot? He's just not a good filmmaker, Brian Bart. You ask questions and there really isn't anything deeper that needs to go into it other than he's just not a good filmmaker. Simple as that. Lord Toth, sorry late, family stuff, no problem at all. Family is important. Family is important, must always come first. All right, let's see here. Trying to catch up with some Darth Moral. What's going on, Darth Moral? It's been forever since I've seen you in the chat, but glad to see you back, man. Glad to see you back. Let us see here. My son did nothing wrong. Here's the thing. Keep in mind, anytime that Joe Biden has been asked about his son Hunter in an interview or by a constituent, he gets mad, he gets angry, and he immediately shuts them down. You know who's not going to allow that to happen? Donald Trump. That's why some people like him. Super. Also, while we're talking about movies real quick, I saw The Bicycle Thieves for my film history class, and everyone needs to watch it. It's awesome. Think you like it. Oh, it's been on my radar for a long time, man. Tenet. I watched the new Mulan through allegedly illegal ways. Allegedly, and it was hilariously bad. Weekend Warrior did a great video on that trash fire they call movie. Yeah, I did a review on it myself. It is that bad. It is that bad. And yes, allegedly, things indeed have been accessed as such. Let's see. Eric K. One of my friends, his mother-in-law was a tax attorney. It always amazed me how much she got back. Yeah, absolutely. Some people just know how to use the system. And to be honest, I think that show, hey, maybe the system needs to be fixed. And sure enough, a tax credit or tax break came and helped a lot of people. Didn't help everybody, but hey, can only work with what you got. Can only work with what you got. Bruce says, Odin, it's okay. Those daily messages weren't for you, but still. Waiting for no drag. Laura says, happy birthday. Well, thank you very much, Laura. Appreciate that. Turned 32 yesterday. Norto says, true. I don't know what to what. 13th Warrior, to me, Biden's worst lie is constantly saying the man involved in the accident which killed his wife was driving under the influence. Not true. He's been called on it and continued. Yeah, I remember that came out too. And that's one that I've always been a little bit more hesitant to get into, only because when you deal with the death of a loved one, obviously he would be going through trauma and anger. And so I feel like most of the time we're willing to give some people who go through that a little bit more leeway, right? So it doesn't mean that they have the right to lie and to smear someone's name when it turns out to not be true, but it's at least more understandable, right? I think we're willing to be more graceful and gracious towards that person. But yeah, it's ridiculous when people lie and they get consistently backed up with their claims. You know, it just pisses me off when people are wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong, and they get covered up for it because they know the right people. It's ridiculous. Waiting for Nerdrotic says, theaters open here Friday, but the wife says, nay, nay. Ah, no. I would say yay, yay to that, Laura. So, Laura, what you need to do is you need to get you and the wife some hazmat suits, and then she'll feel safe. And then you'll say, there's no reason for us not to go now. She'll walk in with the hazmat suits. That would be fantastic. That would be wonderful. Darth Morrill says, this election is important to the UK too. Trump is far more pro-UK than the Dems. Whenever they get the chance, they try to go against us, such as Pelosi threatening a no UK-US trade deal. Here's the other thing too, talking about international relations. Trump is arguably the most pro-Israel president. Biden has been very clear to say that he would very much be more of a pro-Palestine president. And again, not getting into the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. However, that basically, to me, would ramp up a lot more problems, a lot more drama. Not to mention, there's a lot of policies that Biden stands for that I think would be generally dangerous. For instance, he has no restrictions and wants no restrictions on abortion. And that's going to be the biggest issue for me. That is something I'm very strongly considering in my own choices. I have not made an official decision yet. Unfortunately, my Tennessee ballot is very limited as far as my options are concerned, but I always look into every option. And here's one thing I will say to try and to finish things up, because I do need to head out. I do need to be able to say goodnight to my wife and be able to get set up and ready for the debate, because also Steven Crowder just went live, I believe, and a couple other channels. I want to watch their pre-shows to it as well. Is this fact, though, is that when we look to the relationships that are being forged, the relationships that are being put together in this, the issue of life is one that is the most important for me personally. But what I would say to everyone, to get back to my point, do your research. Don't just check off a name because there's an R or a D or an I next to it, all right? Look into who the candidate is, what they stand for. And if you can find a candidate that you think aligns mostly with your thoughts, mostly with your policies, that is going to be the best candidate for you. If you are in a state where you can write in a candidate that maybe couldn't have gotten on the ballot because they didn't have enough money, support them. Find a way to write them on there and give them some love. Even if you're voting for a third party, that is not a throwaway vote. I'm so sick and tired of that mindset. Guess what? There's never going to be a third, fourth, fifth, or sixth party in any country, in any democratic republic society, unless we have the ability to make these choices. Right? I think voting is very important, which is why if you're going to put any focus and attention on anything as far as the races this year go, local races are going to be much more impactful on you than anywhere else. Nathan Slade, Disney should bag the idea of Indiana 5. I agree for sure. No question about it. Rob D, get snacks and a drink, comfy chair. Damn right, absolutely. Waiting for Nerdrotic to send a package to your P.O. box, but it shows held at the post office. Yeah, I've not been to my P.O. box in a while, Laura, so that might be why sometimes it shows up that way. Also, since my P.O. box sometimes just get filled with random things from random people, I'm going to try and head there sometime this week, though. Maybe even as early as tomorrow. But thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. I'll be on the lookout for that tomorrow. So yeah, normally when it says delivered or holding, it means it's been delivered to my P.O. box. And then it will be or rather it's been delivered to the post office and a slip has been put into my box, meaning once I sign for it, they scan it, then it is going to be labeled as delivered. Graciela says, just curious, did you like Bale as Batman, and which of the 3 movies do you like best? I like the first best. For me, I think Bale was fine as Batman. For me, Dark Knight obviously is going to be the best, but Batman Begins is also fantastic. Jay80 thank you very much for saying that my beard is epic. Thank you so very much. And then he also says Chris Wallace will protect Biden. Here's the thing. Chris Wallace, I think, is going to go after many more people. I think that he is going to, or rather, I think he's going to be as fair as he possibly can. However, in that his mindset of being fair, it will also include fact-checking both of them. And that could be dangerous, or that not dangerous rather, but that could cause a lot of tension among those on stage. So I don't think that he's like a Candy Crowley, who, if you don't remember from the 2012 debates with Romney, had a major impact where basically he fact-checked Romney in the middle of the debate, gave Obama the ability to fight him on it, even though the fact check turned out to be completely false. So I don't think Wallace will do that. I think he'll be fair, but of course, we will all have to wait and see. Daniel Thorne, thank you for the 5 ice creams. And for Peabody, thank you for the ice cream donation. And Darth Morrill, I saw the comment a little bit. Blake St. Clair, what's going on? Hannibal Grimm is here as well. But yes, indeed, Baby Thor is on the way. We're around 39 weeks along. So that means next week will be the due date. We might have to do an induction, which will be a few days after that point. So again, I will, of course, let you all know. As soon as Baby Thor is here. But Baby Thor is on the way. But thank you very much for being here tonight. This has been an awesome stream. A lot of fun. A lot of things that we're talking about. Glad to see that Heimdall is indeed back up and running. And shout out to the Valks, Tina and Steph, for being on the ball tonight and being freaking fantastic. So let me go ahead and shout out really quickly my YouTube members who are at the Army of Asgard level. So again, those that are at the Army of Asgard level, Keeper of the Bifrost level as well. My $5 nut backers. So shout out to Bruce, Andrew Hoyle, Eric K, Orange at Reviews, Adam Avery, Latino Slant, The Bosco 2000, Twirly Wolf, J-Sto, and Aiden Vickery. You guys are freaking awesome. Orange at Reviews, night to you. Darth Morrill, thank you very much for those congratulations. And yeah, everyone out there, whether you're going to watch the nonsense that we're going to see in the next, 25, 24 minutes or so or not, all we can do really is to try and pray for the country. Because as much as the jokes and as much as the fight might be entertaining, it is also, as I said, a sign of the sad state of our current country, where we can't have 2 or 3 or 4 different people from different ideological backgrounds having discussions on policy and on the important issues that affect us on a daily basis. As much and as fun as it is to see things go WWE style and to go into the fighting and going into like the showmanship and everything, as fun as that can be, I really do hope that, especially after, whether it's 4 more years of Trump or not, that we're able to, after that point, get to a more civil point in our culture to have these discussions, to have these debates in a cordial way, but also not even that, to get things done, to stop trying to play identity politics, to stop trying to play, I'm going to stop this person because of X belief, and instead be able to work together. The one goal, the one dream that I have is that we can finally have a year where Congress, split or not, is able to pass a bill, a simple bill that gets 99% approval. Because Lord knows there are ideas, there are concepts that we can all agree on. The problem, of course, is with the way in which our government works, which is why what we need to do is we need to vote out any House members in our local districts that vote party line every single time, that do not care about what the best decision is, that does not care about what is best for their own state, does not care about what's best for their own country, but instead will only vote because of party lines. Those people need to be run out. Those people need to be voted out of office. And luckily, every 2 years, we have that ability to do so. The House of Representatives might not seem very important. It is so very important indeed. And especially with senators being able to serve for 6 years, it is the only way that we can keep any check on the things going on and hopefully be able to move ourselves forward. Thank you for your attention. Rant's over. You guys are awesome and amazing and beautiful people. Shout out once again to Tina and Steph for being my Valkyrie, Empress of the Universe Tina, my General Valkyrie. Also, shout out to them. Thank you very much for the gift. I really do appreciate it. I cannot wait to use it later. And yeah, you guys are freaking awesome. And these are always fun. This one was more fun than usual. There were topics that I love talking about. You guys were all great. You guys were all interactive. New people coming in, new people adding some different perspectives, all that kind of stuff, talking about all the fun things. My D-Live fam, y'all stay around. It looks like we have some lurkers. There's 8 people I see that normally wouldn't be there. It's 18 total people. So mods, stay in touch with that. If you see any random people start to follow at the last minute, make sure you take care of them because I don't want them to steal any of potential Lino or not. You guys are awesome, amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful evening. And as always, God bless. And now a huge shout out to all of my September Patreon and Subscribe Star members: Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, The Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Lady T, Laura the Modern Major General Story, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Outpost Dyer, Riff Magos, Rosetta Ullen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B. Thank you very much for being my supporters over on Patreon. And to my Subscribe Star members, stand for John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebadon G. Adams, and the K-Man. Thank you so very much for being my supporters over on Subscribestar, and a shout out to all of my supporters on both platforms. If you yourself want to get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream, please consider joining on Patreon or Subscribestar. You can also get access to exclusive giveaways, to an exclusive podcast that I do twice a month with my friend John the Flick Pig Flickinger, where we talk about just random stuff going on in the movies, our reviews, and also we take Q&A questions from everyone as well in those categories. So if you would like to have any of those things or access to them, or even the biggest of them all, to be one of my chosen of Valhalla and get a t-shirt during your first month, and also have access to be featured on the channel once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, please consider checking that out in the links in the description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.